So what happens when a group of Windows bootleggers from the mid-2000s decides to make a Linux distro? Well, it ends up looking a lot like Windows XP. It's called StartOS, and today I've got 3 versions of it that we're going to explore to see if this was actually anything worth using. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So a little backstory, StartOS was originally known as YLMFOS or YOMF maybe? Created by a software developer, well maybe that's stretching the term a little bit, called YLMF, very fittingly. These guys were a company based in China. They were founded in 2005, and according to the Crusty Windows Wiki, a great source for all of this Windows bootleg related stuff, these guys would actually sell Windows bootlegs to people. And there's a few of them in the Crusty Windows library. We've got gems such as Windows XP SP3 Compact Edition, Starter Edition Y1.0, Ghost XP SP3, and my personal favorite, YLMF Tomato Garden XP 3.0. And the funny thing about this is, honestly, it doesn't look like a super terrible Windows bootleg to use. Now, obviously, I never recommend actually using these on like your primary computer, but it's not bloated up with a whole bunch of useless software. You only have 3 third-party, well, you got Microsoft Office, but you have Office, Flash Player, and WinRAR added in here. That's it. You've got some updates, of course, and then, yeah, you've got your typical things like a theme and a wallpaper and an icon pack. But, yeah, compared to some of the other ones that we've taken a look at on this channel, doesn't look particularly awful, but maybe that's not saying a whole lot. Though the topic of today's video is YLMFOS, which was first released back in 2010, and I actually remember downloading a copy of this, I think from probably around this time, because I saw that, as you can see, this is a very Windows XP looking Linux distribution. And this was around the time when I started messing around with virtual machines and installing different Linux distros and all of that kind of stuff, so I was really interested in just anything that I could get my hands on. But for some reason, I don't think I ever actually got around to installing this and checking it out. So we're going to change that today. And like I said at the beginning of the video, we will take a look at 2 additional versions to see how this kind of changed over the years. Alright, so I've got the disk here for YLMFOS 1.0. We're going to pop it into our XP Pentium 4 system, and we'll just get out of the BIOS here and boot off of it. A couple interesting things about this. First of all, the Crusty Windows Wiki correctly says that this is based off of Ubuntu 9.10. However, the Wikipedia page says that it's based off of Ubuntu 9.04, so who wants to fix it? I also found an Internet Archive listing where I downloaded all these ISOs from, because there's even some more over there that are not on the Crusty Windows Wiki, and that says it's based off of Fedora 11. So yeah, there seems to be some confusion as to what this thing is actually based on, but of course we'll verify that once we get it installed and everything. So here is the startup screen. This is a live CD, so we can just hit the first option to try it. And here's the boot screen. It's just a flashing logo. And here we are on the desktop. Of course, you can see right off the bat that it really does look a lot like Windows XP. We've got a theme going on. We have a wallpaper that kind of reminds me of the Ripple or maybe even the Crystal wallpapers from Windows XP. They have their logo just stamped down here on the bottom right. And you've got a Windows XP icon pack applied, even taking effect in the system tray here. So we're just going to jump into the installer. 457%, geez, we're like really fast. Well, anyway, here we are at the portion of the installer where we tell it where we want to install it to, and I did look up an Ubuntu 9.10 install process, and so far this looks practically identical to it, with the exception of the fact that we've got different icons on these buttons down here. So this is a blank hard disk. We're just going to use all of it to install YLMFOS on, and we'll put in my name here, use that super secure password. So it looks like they have changed the graphic down here. So it says, welcome to YLMFOS. YLMFOS is based on the user experience and usage habits to make adjustments and innovative. Okay. We firmly believe that through the efforts of us all, Linux can also be done as well as Windows. I'm sure that's just like a bad translation of this is made to look and feel like Windows. It's got the Firefox web browser, the faster, more secure, and fully customizable way to surf the web. That might be just taken from the regular, like, like Ubuntu graphic that's normally here, but you can see that it's both in English and Chinese. And I don't think the Chinese version is a direct translation because it says Firefox 3.5 here. And it talks about Wine as well. Wine enables Linux, Mac, FreeBSD, and Solaris users to run Windows applications without a copy of Microsoft Windows. It's free software under constant development. Other platforms may benefit as well. And speaking of benefits, today's video sponsor Nomad eSIM gives you the benefit of saving money while you're using your phone during international travel. Instead of relying on your existing phone carrier and incurring a ton of roaming charges, you can use one of Nomad's eSIMs available for over 200 destinations. Before I discovered Nomad, it cost a lot more to use my phone while abroad. My carrier charges a fee for every day that I'm traveling internationally. But by using Nomad, all I have to do is pick a destination, choose how much data I want, and pay a one-time fee. And what I like about them are the regional plans that they offer. Say you're going to Europe and want your phone to work in every country you visit, well, they've got a plan for that. Plus, it's super easy to set up. Just download the app, pick your plan, and install your new eSIM on your device. It's that simple. Nomad supports both Android and iOS devices, and works with top data providers so that no matter where you are, you'll always be getting a reliable connection. The holidays will be here in no time, so be sure to check out Nomad by scanning this QR code or clicking the link down below and use my code MichaelMJD to get 20% off your first purchase. And huge thanks again to Nomad for making this video possible. And here we are at the login screen, which, yeah, as you can see, is just like a direct one-to-one copy of the welcome screen in Windows XP. I mean, this background image is certainly just taken from it. We do have the YLMF OS logo over here, and your shutdown and suspend and options, you know, all these controls are down here. And what the heck? Why is the... What? Why is this so large? What is this like? Is this supposed to be a pop-up menu? I think it is. Why does it take up the whole screen? So yeah, you can change your language, you can select the session, restart, shut down, suspend. Of course, you have the rest of those options here, or well, shut down and suspend anyways. But yeah, these icons are from XP. And then you have your login prompt over here. And just like, you know, this is just the OS logo in place of your user profile, because, you know, you're not really going to have that going on. So we'll put in my username, which, what the... Okay, so yeah, the text is just set to a really large size for some reason. That makes sense with what we have going on down here, but why is the text set to some ridiculously large size? I don't think it's normally supposed to be that way. But we'll put in my username and password and just log in. And here we are back on the desktop. So I think what we're going to do is just go through and explore what programs came pre-installed on here. You saw Wine was mentioned earlier, so we will try to install some Windows stuff. And I guess we'll just start on the desktop. So we've got Firefox, but this would have come with Ubuntu anyways. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff would have just been standard Ubuntu inclusions, but there are some additional things added in that wouldn't normally come with it. So it's got a startup page here, YLMF OS English Edition v1.0. They have a list of system enhancements, so they list Wine, Unrar, CCSM, short for Compiz Config Settings Manager, and Open in Terminal. This application allows you to open a terminal window with the path of the current window. So that's probably like a context menu thing. Really? Is that something like I feel like that's pretty common for a lot of Linux distros. Maybe it wasn't a thing in stock Ubuntu at the time, but they list it as a system enhancement. And then they talk about the XP theme, OpenOffice is in here, you've got a document viewer for multiple document formats, and a Chinese input method, which again makes sense with this being a Chinese company. Interestingly enough, this screenshot here, I think this is just a screenshot from Windows XP. Let's see if we can get a larger view of this here. So, yeah, we have the Bliss wallpaper in this, first of all, which is not the default wallpaper in here. I mean, maybe it's included and we can change it. But this is just the regular Windows XP start menu, not like what we have here. Although it looks like the icon has been changed to something else. But yeah, you got Firefox, no surprise. This is version 3.5.7 for those curious. By the way, I did want to hop into Terminal here just to see what it says the version number is. So, yeah, description Ubuntu 9.10, release 9.10. Okay, so there was a screenshot of the version number on the Crusty Windows Wiki page too, but they are right. Also on the desktop, we've got the movie player, we have OpenOffice, Pigeon, and Rhythmbox. I guess we can open up OpenOffice just for the heck of it. It looks like this is version 3.1, and we can write a cool text document, and, you know, just save that as Untitled 1 in Documents. Sure, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen OpenOffice time and time again on this channel. It's not particularly exciting. But hey, at least they changed the icons for these programs. Though for some reason, they used the document icons for like a PowerPoint, Excel, and Word document instead of just the regular Office program icons. But, I mean, it's something, I guess. And you can see most of these icons have been changed, though I must say, it seems like a missed opportunity that they did not change the terminal icon to the command prompt one. While we're on the topic of customization, though, I want to go into the appearance properties and see if we have the Bliss wallpaper, which it looks like we don't. In fact, we don't have any Windows XP wallpapers in here at all. We've got what looks like the Ubuntu default one, and then just these 4 wallpapers, and of course the default YLMF OS one. We can go over to theme, and of course we've got the XP custom theme here. Now, whether or not this is something that they created or like based off of something or just stole from DeviantArt remains to be seen. But either way, it's a pretty good looking XP theme. You've got the window controls up here, the fonts and the layout of the title bar looks very close to how it is in XP. We've got a bunch of other themes as well. All of these look like just stock Ubuntu ones. And you could just get this theme in stock Ubuntu and not have to download an entirely separate operating system, you know, if you really wanted to get a Windows XP look. Going into the applications menu, I'll just go through each of these folders very briefly here to show you what we've got. And I'll click on anything that stands out to me, but so far, I mean, it's kind of just stock Ubuntu stuff, and then of course we have some additional programs like you saw in that, you know, web page that we opened up in Firefox. We've got places, we've got system, preferences, we've got the control panel icon here, though inside of the preferences folder, it looks like the majority of these are all just the default Ubuntu or GNOME icons. There are a handful of them that are XP ones, but the vast majority of them have remained unchanged. We've got administration stuff. Doesn't look like any XP icons in here, just at a quick glance. And of course, we can view the about information for the GNOME desktop, so there's that. Some other things of note down here near the system tray, we've got a desktop switcher. That's definitely a huge giveaway that this is not Windows XP. And in the system tray, we've got your sound properties. It looks like it has not, or is it just muted? I think it's just muted. Hopefully we've got sound working. I think we have Ethernet working. It says it's active. Let's see if we can go into the web browser here and go to like the old net or something. Yes, we are on the internet. Check that out. So that's awesome. That's another giveaway that we're not using Windows because a lot of our hardware just works out of the box without us having to install a driver manually. And speaking of Windows, I guess we can now move on to actually trying to run some Windows software with Wine. So I have 2 programs. The first is Microsoft Office, the more boring one. And then, of course, we have Half-Life, the more exciting one. So we'll start with Office 2003. I am curious to see if it's got Wine mapped to like automatically open when you click on an exe file. So Office 11 just appeared on the desktop. Is this supposed to be like the CD icon? It's just it's just like a text document icon. Kind of weird, but we'll just try to run setup.exe. And it opens up in the Archive Manager, and of course is going to fail because that's not going to work. So let's try to right-click on this and open with Wine Windows Program Loader. Well, for username and organization, it has pulled the text that Wine has to tell us where you change the preferred owner and preferred organization. So we're just going to back out of that, and we'll put in my name, and we'll just do MJD for the organization. Hit next. We have an end-user license agreement that's a little bit hard to read with the way that's all formatted, but we'll just hit accept, and because, you know, we're not going to read that anyways. And we'll do a complete install since we have plenty of space on this drive. Alright, it's completed successfully. Let's see if we can actually launch the programs. So it should have put that in the Wine Programs folder. Maybe not, we just have accessories in there. So how about, yeah, it's not going to really put any of that stuff in here. So I guess we'll have to go to Wine, Browse C Drive, go into Program Files, Microsoft Office, Office 11, and then we just got to find winword.exe. So we'll run this, and we gotta we gotta change it to run with Wine. Hang on a second. There we go, Word 2003. So yeah, that loads up. We are not going to bother activating at the moment. And yeah, we can write out another cool text document and save that. And yeah, we'll just do it in our Wine My Documents folder. Yeah, Microsoft Office is not a particularly impressive achievement to run with Wine, but I always like doing it just to see if we can get something to work. So we'll go ahead and restore the window, make it a little bit smaller here. And we'll move on to Half-Life because I'm sure everybody wants to see me try to run Half-Life on another computer on this channel. Now, we are getting into this a little bit earlier than we normally do, since we still have 2 more versions of this operating system to take a look at. But I'm just going to do this now because if we can get these programs to work on this version of YLMFOS, it'll probably work just fine on the other 2 later versions. And I'm sure that's a line of thinking that has never failed a Linux user before. We're just going to, instead of opening up Rhythmbox, since this is more than an audio CD, we're just going to open it up in a folder. And it looks like all we have in here are the WAV files, but then we have a separate Half-Life disk here. So I guess it's like separated that, and yeah, so it's got like, this is an audio CD, and then this is everything else. So we're just going to try to run setup from here. Alright, so sound works, that's great. We did indeed hear the sound file, and we'll just breeze through this installation. We've got the Sierra logo, but I think the game froze. Actually, the whole computer froze, because I can't, I can't move the mouse. Okay, well, yeah. The valve animation showed up for a second there, and then it went away. And, oh my gosh, what is going... Look at this what is going on up here? That actually looks kind of cool. There is definitely a noticeable delay, though, mousing over these menu options. So this is going to be just so much fun. Okay, and it fixed everything when we went into configuration here. Well, we'll go to configuration and see what video modes that we get. We've got software, we have OpenGL, and we have Direct3D. So let's try Direct3D 640 by 480 and see if we can launch into... Let's do the hazard course this time. It works! Oh my gosh. Check that out. Okay. Let me turn this sound down a little bit here so I'm not blasting out my ears, but... Yeah, it's not, like, centered. It's, you know, up here at the, like, it's off-center to the left here, but it does indeed work, and we've got, like, this is a totally playable frame rate. So, that's awesome, for sure. Let's try this at 800 by 600 and see if that takes up more of the screen. Now, this monitor's native resolution is 1024 by 768, so I'm guessing that's probably what we're gonna have it set to. Yeah, there we go. Although that is... Whoa, that is way laggier. Oh my gosh. Okay, so 640 by 480 is definitely playable. This is definitely not playable. So I'm just gonna switch it back to that. Okay, well that's weird. Now we're at 640 by 480, and it's taken up the entire screen, and it's super laggy again. So it was working just fine before. Was it set to software, maybe? I mean, I set it to Direct3D, but did the setting not carry over? I don't think it was set on software before, guys. Yeah, now the game just isn't even coming up at all. And when we switch back to Wine VDM, we can hit escape to get to the menu, so we are on the right, like, window. I mean, I can alt-tab here and, like, go back to the file browser, go back to Wine. And yeah, I mean, we got nothing. I can't even see the mouse cursor. So what was the deal with, like, why did it worked perfectly and it was so smooth the first time. And then I went back in and changed it to the same exact configuration and it was all of a sudden having problems. But let's try Direct3D 640 by 480 again. Okay, and now we're back to this, and it works fine. So, yeah, that's kind of odd, but it does work when it displays like this, so that's cool. I open up the Wine configuration, and I'm going to check emulate a virtual desktop and set this to 640 by 480 and see if that does anything for us. Like maybe we have to specify the size of the desktop. So let me quit out of this and then relaunch it. Okay, and now Microsoft Office appears in the Programs folder, but Sierra only has Sierra Utilities and not, you know, the thing that we actually care about. So we'll have to go and just launch it manually from the C drive. Okay, so now, oh my gosh, now, what? Okay, now it's running at like super speed. And yeah, there goes the valve animation. Okay, so that's what was happening before. The animation just plays super ridiculously fast. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that is totally fine. So that's, I guess, probably what you have to do. So you see we can move around and the frame rate's back to something that's actually playable. So that's cool. And I don't think I've ever actually set Wine to emulate a desktop like that before, to where it just moves the entire thing into a window. So that is very neat. Now obviously you can see there are some like graphical problems with the menu taking a long time to load up and this all being glitched out and the loading animations being on like super speed. And now that I think about it, I think this is honestly the first time in a while where I have installed Windows software in Wine on a Linux system, and everything that I tried worked totally fine. I mean, well, I guess Half-Life didn't technically work 100% fine, you know, because we had to go in and change those desktop settings around. But this is great. So yeah, we are 2 for 2, or I'm going to at least say close enough. So that is Half-Life. That is Microsoft Office running on this system utilizing Wine. And I think now we're going to move on to the next version of YLMF OS, and that's going to be 4.0. Now, the reason why we're making such a large jump is because version 4.0 is the first version where there's a lot of visual changes made. So at this point, they had themed the operating system to look more like Windows Vista instead of XP. So version 2 and 3 of YLMF OS are pretty much visually identical to what we just saw. And right off the bat, this one looks like it's in Chinese, though I think there is an English option when you go through the setup process. I'm assuming this first one is going to boot us into the live CD environment. And here's the desktop. So this time around, it's not as close of a recreation as the XP themed one is. We do have like a start orb thing going on, and kind of like a, you know, arrow glass looking thing on the taskbar and some transparency on the start menu, but it is kind of like its own thing. A lot of these icons, though they are kind of in that like Frutiger arrow style, they are not just directly ripped from Windows Vista, at least from what I can see. But we might see some Windows Vista icons as we go through this thing. So I'm thinking this is probably the installer, so we'll run that. And yes, there is an English option, so that's great. The interesting thing about this particular version is it's not based on Ubuntu. This is based on Xianga Linux, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, and I apologize in advance. And from what I read, this is a Chinese Linux distro that appears to be kind of its own thing. So that's what they chose to base this version off of, but they did eventually switch back to Ubuntu-based stuff because the next version we'll take a look at is based on a newer version of that. So we're going to just use the entire disk and hit install. And oh my gosh, this is like some Frutiger Arrow gloriness here. Check. Oh gosh, this is beautiful, isn't it, man? A lot of these icons just, wow, that really takes me back. So yeah, we've got network, multimedia, office, software, and other. Probably just telling you various features that it has. And it looks like it's done. I also just noticed welcome to YLMF OS down here in the bottom. So yeah, a little bit of a typo, but not the biggest deal. And we'll just restart. And this time it just logs us right into the desktop. So maybe there's not like a whole welcome screen thing, but let's see if we log out. Also, we got sound working again. That's great. Oh yeah, it just, there literally is no welcome screen. It just logs me back in immediately. But kind of continuing what I was saying before, so there's definitely like a Frutiger Arrow style going on, even with the wallpaper here. So this is not something from Windows Vista, but honestly, I could see this as a wallpaper. Maybe in like one of the earlier Longhorn builds, I think this would fit pretty nicely. But it looks like we've got some other ones in here. Oh, this one looks really nice. Yeah, I really like the look of that one. But we've got like a fish wallpaper. We've got, okay, one with a horse on it. We've got just some other cool designs here. We only have one theme in here this time. And taking a look at the window controls on here, I mean, you could kind of say that these were like a Vista-ish style, but they're not identical to it. So this is still, I guess, trying to kind of be its own thing. We have Chromium for the web browser instead of Firefox. Oh, apparently it's not the default web browser. That's hilarious. WebQQ? Is this a web browser? Well, it's just an embedded Chromium thing. And then we have 115U-Web, which also looks like just another embedded Chromium thing. So this is probably a web app. In fact, there is an entire web apps folder in the applications menu with just these two things in it. We also have system tools, a no-name category, which looks like it is just media stuff, judging from that icon there. We've got Office, Internet, Graphics, Games, Accessories, and then just all of the applications on here. I am curious about this Software Center. Okay, check this out. Is this actually still online? I mean, it pulled a list. And yeah, there is a whole lot of stuff in here, including some stuff like Pigeon that was in the that other version that we just took a look at of this operating system. Here's Firefox version 4.0. Let's see if we can install this. Okay, downloading, but we are at 0%. And it doesn't look like it's moving. But we will give it some time here. Let's see if we can scroll through. No, we can't. Okay, so we have to just let this do its thing. So I guess maybe the list of applications is stored locally or on a server that is still accessible, but wherever all these applications were stored is just not a thing anymore. I'm also curious about this YPK file format. Is that like its own thing? Well, according to file info, it straight up doesn't exist. Well, here's a page on file.ext that says YPK files mostly belong to 7-zip. It is a compressed game data archive that uses the zip format internally. And yeah, it's structured as a zip container. Because I was thinking YPK, maybe that stands for YLMF package. And perhaps it does, but they're really just zip files or some other archive format. But anyways, we're still here at 0%. And it doesn't really seem like we're getting anywhere. We'll try a couple more things. We've got, let's see, customize look and feel, which customizes the look and feel of your desktops, if you couldn't guess. Oh, it's LX appearance. Also, doesn't seem like we're really getting anywhere with that. Let's go to this menu up here, About Us, YLMF Center 1.0 Pre, YLMF OS Software Center with a very blurry icon there. Under Settings, we can select between the stable or testing software branch. We have the official server source is the only like one in here by default, but you could add others by typing in the URL, and you can reset to defaults. So I personally have not seen this before, but this could very well be just like a rebadged version of some existing Software Center thing. We also have the option to remove stuff. And we can remove the Software Center from the Software Center. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. The following item will be removed at the same time. The language pack, okay. Alright, and it completed. So this should be removed now. As of right now, it doesn't look like anything is broken. However, if we close out of this, oh, okay, yeah, well, we don't have the window controls anymore. So I think this is kind of starting to break. And I'm sure if we close out of this and try to go back into it here, it just ain't gonna work. Well, I've let it sit here for a couple minutes and we got nothing, not even an error message, which is kind of surprising. I mean, we can try to launch it again, but I'm sure we're just gonna get the same thing. I am curious, like, I didn't see anything about wine. Is wine not included in here? It's not. That is very surprising. And, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but we do have the Windows Vista sound scheme. I think that's the only thing, like, directly taken from Windows Vista that is in here. The cursor is taken from Mac OS X. You might have noticed this, but like when we launch something, we get the little spinning beach ball there. So basically, this is just a bunch of stuff thrown together, which, I mean, I think that kind of fits well with Windows bootleggers being the people behind this. I'm still really surprised we don't have Wind, though. So I guess it's a good thing that we demoed that on the previous version. So that about wraps it up for version 4. Now we're going to move on to version 5.1, which is when they were going under the StartOS name. Now, this is not the first version to go under this name, but it is the last full official release of this operating system. There was a 6.0 beta release after this, but I think that the final official release is a good point to end off on. You can see it's all in Chinese again, so we're going to have to go through the installer and change it over to English. But just looking, you know, in here, this doesn't look like it's really themed around any Windows version at all, so I think they had kind of abandoned that by this point. We'll open up the installer here. We have a totally different cursor pack as well. And if I had to guess, this prompt here is going to be for our username, computer name, password is here. And then down here is where we change the language. So they just moved this option down below the user entry stuff. It was up here before in the previous one. And then we've got, it looks like we have 2 time zones in the US. We've got Phoenix and Tell City, Indiana. So I guess we'll keep it on Phoenix. USA keyboard layout, that's fine. And erase and use the entire disk. We'll hit install. And this looks like a much nicer installer. I really like the, you know, transparency going on there in this top part. And here we are back on the desktop. By the way, I just noticed that there was a separate wallpaper for the live CD, and once we actually install it, you see we got this one here. It's also kind of like a Frutiger Arrow-ish thing. I don't know, I'm just getting those vibes from it. But we've got square icons now all across the board. We've got a good selection of applications under accessories. Yeah, Archive Manager, Calculator, tutorials, kind of standard stuff. Graphics, we've got Shotwell, looks like LibreOffice again. Let's hop into the desktop settings and see what we have for backgrounds and themes. So, okay, some of these carry over from 4.0. It looks like the default one is gone, but this one that I liked is here. We've got the fish one. So why don't we set it back to... I actually like this one. We'll just go with that. Theme, we have StartOS Black, but this, I mean, that's the GNOME icon there. So this theme may not be like as modified as the previous ones were. There is a software center as well, which does look very similar to the one we had in the previous version, although this time it cannot connect to the server. Let's try under software. Okay, well this works. So the home tab doesn't work, but we can still view all of the packages. It looks like there's only 328 things though. We had like over 2,000 in the previous version. What about upgrade? Nothing need to upgrade. Installed. Okay, we can remove stuff from here. Does it give us the option to remove the package manager? That's what I want to know. Software Center. Oh, requested. So it looks like they fixed that. There is no longer an uninstall button in here for the Software Center, but for all this other stuff, it looks like you can just remove them normally. Under tasks, we have nothing, although under finished, we have check out for news success. So I guess maybe it was refreshing like the home page. Maybe they would display news here. The big question, of course, is can we actually install stuff? So MSN Messenger for Linux? Yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's hit install. Okay, it's not a separate pop-up window this time, but I guarantee you it just gave us this icon appear under tasks. It probably failed. Checksum error. Okay, let's try something else. Maybe let's go to Office, and we'll get Abbey Word. Okay, that actually popped up with this, just letting us know we have to install some dependencies. So we'll say okay, and that looks like it failed too with the same checksum error. We'll try one more thing. What do we got under graphics? Inkscape. Let's try to grab that. Bunch of dependencies, sure. And No, it failed as well. Okay, so same situation that we had before. We can display the packages, we can't install them. Let's try to remove something. How about the Chromium web browser? Are you sure you want to remove Chromium? Yes. Okay, removed. And that shows now under finished. We still have the icon on the desktop. There was an error launching this application, so we actually get a message this time. By the way, I just noticed, check out the taskbar buttons down here. These kind of give off a Windows 7 theme to me. We could open up like computer here and maybe our home folder and just minimize those. So that's nice. So there is like a little bit of Windows inspiration going on in here. But it is cool that they've got a software center. It's a shame that, I mean, it doesn't work entirely anymore. Your system tray down here has, you know, your expected things. You've got your volume slider, which, yes, sound is working. Now, this right here, I don't actually know what this is. Oh, is this like, okay, this is to show the desktop, yeah. I thought it was maybe like a user switcher or something, but yeah, that's just to get access to the desktop. Show desktop button version 2.3.2.1. Copyright Red Hat, okay. So honestly, here's what I'll say about this distro. I think that for that first version, you know, if you wanted like a Windows XP themed distro, if you were maybe thinking of switching over back then, and you know, you were used to the way Windows worked and how things looked, that first version might have actually been something that would be worth checking out. Of course, it is always worth noting that you could just get all of that on a more mainstream distro and, you know, achieve that same look and feel. However, these other two, although they've got like some Windows lookalike components here and there, overall it just makes it feel like yet another Linux distro to choose from in the sea of the many more established options out there that, you know, I personally would recommend using over this. But I'm really curious to hear from any of you guys out there if you used this operating system back in the early 2010s. If you did, be sure to drop a comment down below. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early, sponsor-free access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, as always, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.